The following presentation is brought to you by kmmedia.pro. Please visit kmmedia.pro for more information. Now stay right where you are as we present. Welcome to Positive Talk Radio, evolving ideas one conversation at a time. Great guests, dynamic stories and interviews, plus new thoughts on a wide range of topics and concepts. I hope that you'll hang with me, Kevin McDonald, my friends, and of course, you. As together we work to understand why we are all here and what we can do to make our world a better place for all of us. To be happy, be kind, and live in peace together. Yep, that's Positive Talk Radio. So to Positive Talk Radio, one of my favorite people on the planet is here with me today. I really enjoy talking to this young lady. She is just awesome. She is what I've come to know as the queen of the limb dwellers. And we can talk a little bit about what a limb dweller is, but that really isn't why I wanted to have you here for this presentation anyway. First of all, what did you think of the opening?
Love it. Love it. Love it. I just, it's so fun and interesting to have known you through a few reiterations and to see what you've created. I'm just gobsmacked. How's that? I love that word.
I love to be gobsmacked.
Isn't that great? I love that. I try to slip it in every chance I get. I think it's gonna make a comeback.
Well, I got to tell you, it's very interesting because over the course of Positive Talk Radio, which I brought it back, I was doing My Independence Report, and I had 450 episodes on My Independence Report. You can go to myindependencereport.com and you can watch like 450 of the older episodes, including Neil Donald Walsh and Gary Zukav and some of those. But then I decided to go back to Positive Talk Radio last year, and it was interesting. I just got off the phone with a gentleman that is going to be on the show who was 650 pounds. And his life was virtually over, and now he's lost 350 pounds. He's on his way.
Wow.
He's a radio guy. He's done. And so I like to bring on people that can help us live our lives just a little bit better. And you are so gifted at that.
Oh, thank you, Kevin. That's really sweet.
Well, it's important and it's true.
Thank you.
Because you do such good work for people. And first of all, if somebody wants to follow along and look at your website, where do they go?
Limbdweller.com. So it's limb, L-I-M-B, dweller, D-W-E-L-L-E-R.com.
Very cool. And
see, I'm the queen of limb dwellers, apparently.
You are the head chief bottle washer and queen of the limb dwellers.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Because so when we first met, I think the first time that you were on the show, it was My Independence Report, and or it was close to Positive Talk.
You had just started, because I remember Positive Talk back in the day, like when you first did.
Oh, that's right, from 20 years ago.
Yeah, Seattleite. So I remember that was a buzz. So it was, so when I found out that it was back on air, I was like, oh. And then when I met you, it was like even better, because turns out we know, we're both Seattleites. So
exactly,
it's kind of rare.
And we're both after the same thing, which is to help people live their lives a little bit better and to get through some of the issues, some of the problems, some of the things that hold us back. And we're going to talk about that today. I'm really excited about that.
Me too. Me too. Do you want me to tell you a little bit about the Queen of Limb Dwellers?
Why don't we start there, and just real briefly on what your mission is, and let me see if I can paraphrase. Can I?
Sure, absolutely.
No, go ahead. On second thought, maybe you better.
Well, you know what I was going to say. It's if anybody feels like they're an oddball and that they're only one, that they don't fit the mold and they're the only ones out there, I really support you in going to my website and looking for the link that says, what is a limb dweller? Because I actually created like a 2-minute, it's like a 2-minute animated story about how it came to be. And so it's kind of a challenge for anybody listening, that if they are feeling kind of funky and they just feel like they don't fit the mold, This talks about what happened to me when I was 28 years old, and the person that stepped in my life taught me about being a limb dweller. And the rest, as they say, is history. So I love passing that. Usually, what I do when people ask me what's a limb dweller, I just pass them now the link, and then they usually get an email back going, "I get it, I'm in." So there's a lot of us. So how's that for a little intriguing, kind of a little bit of a teaser? How's
That's
that?
perfect.
Thank you.
That's perfect for radio video, is
There
that
we
we're
go.
gonna tease them to
There's
go to
a little video.
limdweller.com, and
Yeah,
we'll find out more information about you
that's right.
and stuff, and because you've been working at this for a little while now. You s
I have been. I
you
have.
started when you were 28, you're 32 now, and
It's
so
so charming, so charming. Just had my 32nd birthday, 38th birthday. I can't remember the number. What are numbers, Kevin?
numbers are irrelevant.
They are
It
so
it
relevant.
is, that is, it keeps people keep telling me, it's like, I say, well, I'm getting a little longer in the tooth, and they say, well, Larry King was on the air until he was 90. So
And how that
that's
kicked off the air for the Me Too movement. Yeah, that's great. That is not the model you wanna go after.
no, that's not what was he married, like 8 times, 9 times,
Oh,
something like that,
I
anyway.
don't know, but I have been doing this for a long time, and it's kinda because I think I met you, so I was a business coach, and let me see if I get this. I 35 years in marketing, advertising, and business, consulting, and I became a business coach. And then from a business coach, this is what happening. You know how you stumble across things and your life changes? It's like something you think is the worst thing that could possibly happen turns out to be the best thing. I was a business coach. Went through this dry spell, and I was in this period of life, and I'm sure some of your listeners can identify with this. I was in this period of life. It was COVID-ish time, right? It was about a year and a half into COVID, and all of a sudden my business just stopped, and I thought, oh my God, I'm washed up in this town. And then in true limb dweller fashion, which again is another teaser to get back to the website, but in true,
You
in
must go,
true
you must go.
you must go, you must go. No, but in true limb dweller fashion, what I did is I started looking back at some of the things that have worked for me in the past. And one of the things that I used to play with a lot was my internal board of directors. And I hadn't touched that for a long time. And as a coach, I'm a trained voice dialogue coach, which means that I tell you, clients, when I'm working with clients and they're stuck and they can't move right or left, I do a voice dialogue. I actually talk to that voice and ask them questions, and miraculous things happen, because typically what happens is the person doesn't even know this is what they were feeling. And I can go into detail about that, but the bottom line is that voice dialogue made me realize, as I was sitting in the front row of all my clients experiencing all this information about themselves, that I didn't really know myself as well as I thought. And so I started doing what's my internal board of directors, which is what my business is about now. And I started finding out who my saboteurs were. And I started learning how to communicate with them. And I started learning how to partner with them. And things changed. I mean, completely changed. Because what happened in this situation is I decided I was the president. And if I have a board of directors and they're going, everybody's going off the rails and they're talking all loud, everybody's talking at the same time, the quiet ones don't get a chance to say a peep. And when I started looking at that, because I had time, right? When I started looking at that, I started realizing that I was missing out on some of the most amazing, the wisest part of my being was the quiet part of that table. And because I was in so much fear, that's what was screaming. And that's what just starting to play with that, which isn't where my business is now. It's part of what I bring to my business, but just that piece right there gave me enough distance from my fear and to realize that those voices, that it wasn't me. I was just kind of conditioned to think this way. And that's when things started changing for me.
Now the
So,
quiet ones, are the
yeah,
quiet ones more of your intuitive side, and the loud ones are more of your brain side and the fear side?
it's a great question. With a lot of the breakthroughs they're having in neuroscience right now, and I study positive intelligence, so I'm in the process of getting certified in that. That really what it is it's, if you want it, there's all sorts of data on this, but it's basically the primal part of our brains are the ones that have gotten probably the most press. That's the one that we rely on the most, and it's habitual that we have all this parts of our brain that's critical and judging and very analytical. And that one basically has probably the strongest pathway. That's the go-to. And because it's been the go-to for so long, it's hard to separate from that. And now, so using the analogy of a boardroom, if that side of the table has gotten all the airtime all this time, the other side of the table is the sage. It's the wisdom. It's all the empathy and gratitude, all the I don't want to just say positive and negative, but it's where all the miraculous things happen, where you make decisions and choices from a place of like, I have no idea why I made that choice, but it just felt right. So that's been the exploration for me, and I hope I'm doing a good job explaining it.
You are, but we're going to explore that a lot more because
Yeah.
I think it's really important because a lot of us, because the quiet ones don't speak up, we get used to the loud ones and they end up dictating who we are, and we don't even know where, some of us don't even know where that voice came from, but it's there. And why is it, do you think, and I know that you're working with people to help them through it, why is it, do you think, that we take the negative side or the loud, boisterous side that's got all the negative things to say? Why do we take that as gospel, but we don't take the good side as gospel as well? We discount that more so. Does that ring a bell?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's so many different ways to answer that. They talk about things like negative bias, and they talk about, there's all these terminologies or all these terms for why we go to the why we go to the dark side. But the easiest way it was ever explained to me was, when we were young, say we were 5 or 6 years old, and we fell and broke our leg, and we got a little cast on our leg, right, to make sure to keep us safe while it healed. Well, somehow nobody got the memo that you took the cast off. And so you grow up with this cast and you don't even really think about it because you've had the cast on your leg so much. So you're 60 years old and you still have this tiny little cast on your leg, and so you buy your clothes so that it fits with the cast, and after a while you don't realize it's a cast. You think it's your skin, you think it's part of your body. And I don't think that's my understanding, and it's made the most sense to me, is that it's just simply, we don't have, most of us are so busy, we don't have time to stop and say, wow, why do I think that? Do I think that? Wow, I just told myself that I'm an idiot. Am I really an idiot? That's pretty mean, but no, it's like, you know what I mean? I mean, and that's
Oh
going
yeah.
widely. I talk to, boy, do I talk to some judges, some internal, I mean, vicious, like nobody would talk to you. And I'm sure anybody that's listening is nodding their head because we all know this, right? But why I love the game that I play, it's called the game because it has to be a game, right? Because it's like it has to be playful, and it has to be interesting, and it has to be, for me at least. And it's the most interesting thing, honestly, I've ever done for myself. And my clients are blown away because it's so interesting. Because what happens when there's a process. I have a process I go through, and I do a lot of workshops around this. And so once I get people understanding that, that it's not them, that it's, and there's women that I work with that come into these workshops that are, in decades of life, and they're still saying, no, that's me, I know I'm a failure. And so we have to play with that. I start saying things like, what's that voice sound like? Is it male? Is it female? And they'll be like, well, actually, it's male. I'll be, oh, great. So tell me is it a young voice? Is it an old voice? What's it look like? Is there a color? And so all of a sudden, through this process of just playing around, all of a sudden and I'll say, what's the name? And I just did a class 2 days ago. And this woman who was convinced that this was who she is. She's like, oh, that name's Joe. His name's Joe. And I looked at her and I said, well, what does that offer you now that you know that someone named Joe has really negative messaging for you? And she looked at me and she said, it gives me some distance.
Very good, very good. And this topic is so important. I need to tell you a real quick story, and
Yeah.
I've said it before on the air, but my mother-in-law was adopted. Now, keep in mind that back in 1930,
Mhm.
when you were pregnant and you were a 16-year-old girl, oftentimes you were taken away from your normal life, and you were put in a place where you were going to have the baby, and then you would give up the baby up for adoption. and which is exactly what happened. But so her mother was a 16-year-old girl when she was, and her adopted parents were well-to-do, and they had some money. And so he went and he bought her, basically, in those days you could do it. He bought her for $5,000.
Mhm.
And and but she spent her whole life, because she knew she was adopted early. Her parents were a little bit older, but she spent her whole life feeding the story that I'm adopted and nobody loves me. She could not get away from that because that was the story that
Right.
she kept telling herself. Even when her adopted family, the larger family, cousins and uncles and aunts, and when they would try and convince her that she was loved and she was part of this family, she would keep saying in her head, "No, I'm not, because I'm adopted. I
Right.
don't belong to
Somebody
you."
gave me away. Exactly. Exactly.
And so it affected her. She died when she was like 86, and it affected her whole life.
Mhm.
And I love the work that you're doing, because you can stop somebody from wasting, because she ended up wasting her life because she felt that she was less than.
Yeah.
So she wasn't good enough to do anything because nobody loved her because she was adopted.
Oh,
And
absolutely. My
so
husband actually is adopted, so that is a common theme oftentimes. Um, yeah, I'm really glad. I mean, I'm so sorry for your mom that women at that age and humans at that age didn't have access to some of the things we have, and we barely even touched the surface when we start talking about neuroscience. But there's been with positive psychology, with behavioral science, there's so many things now that we know to this point, which is just again the tip of the iceberg. But people are changing intentionally, and people are able to access parts of their brains that they never were able to access before. I mean, the way I look at it is that this is definitely not for everybody. This is one portal into the psyche, right? This is just one portal. I happen to like this portal because I'm a business person, and my background was in business, sales, marketing, and I tend to work with business women. And so boards of directors, they get that. And so the
sure.
men I work with too is actually everybody, they get that. It makes sense to them. And so it's just a really interesting way to say, wow, okay, I'm adopted and I'm, blah, 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 blah. And there's an assessment, there's a free assessment. Actually, I'm going to offer it. I mean, it's not my assessment to offer, but there's a complimentary assessment of your saboteurs through Shazad Shamin, who is the gentleman that I study with. And saboteurs, right? Because we all have them, right?
Right.
What my clients, for example, if your mom was my client and, we'd hold the space for that. And then it'd be like, are you ready to look at that? Like, who's saying that? And if she had the capacity to step back, for example, like that woman did in my class a couple of days ago, and wow, that's Joe. That's all I need to say, wow, okay, we have Joe. Who else is there? And then they take the assessment and they start looking at these. Oh, I should show you. Do I have it? Oh my goodness. Oh, hold on. I know this is highly unlikely to, or kind of odd to do. But we got to
No,
share.
we're good. We're good. By the way, we're talking with Sandy Stamato, and you can go to Cliff Dweller, to limdweller.com, and you can
Cliff
find out
Builder,
all about her. Because actually, some of the work that you do, it is like being on a cliff sometimes.
you know what? It really is. It's so interesting you're saying that because what I've noticed is that to do this work, you have to let go of some of those stories, right?
You
But
do.
it's less painful when my clients and when one realized they didn't own the story in the first place. So it's a very gentle way of finding out like who really is running the show here. And one of the things that I've done and some of my training is that when you're feeling any kind of, it's going to sound really odd because at first I went, oh, that doesn't make sense, but just work with me on this one. But if you're feeling any kind of angst, right, chances are that's a saboteur. So if you're feeling upset, you're feeling angry, you're feeling, chances are that's a saboteur. And if you subscribe to the whole positive intelligence, it's always a saboteur. And so the idea of this type of work is to quiet that side down. so that you can access. It's all about accessing what we all have, and we've all experienced. We've experienced pure curiosity, and we've experienced, how to navigate situations that used to baffle us. We've had opportunities where I don't think I've ever met a human that wasn't able to access some part that didn't come from right. So
That's very good. Do that again just for fun.
I mean, isn't that how it feels like though? Sometimes it's just like, well, you can't do that. You got to be kidding. I have to tell you, Kevin, this woman, it broke my heart. There was another woman in this class, and she said, "Well, I'm a writer, but I can't write." And everybody was introducing themselves, and we were on Zoom, which is always kind of awkward because nobody really, see each other. But there were about 12 of us, and finally I said, "Really? So you can't tell me more?" Because I honestly hadn't met somebody that was that honest about it. She was just laid it all out on the table, and she just said, "Oh, I can't. I know I can't, but I want to. I know I can't, but I want to. I know I can't, but I want to." And so she and I are going to work a little separately to start playing with that, the same way that I play with my other clients. And it's plain, it's just like, you can just start realizing, kind of name it and claim it. I mean, I've named my board of directors, and if you can just name one, I'm serious, it just opens up the opportunity, to be able to say, you know what, that's JJ. I've got Judge Judy. And she's, I've got Judge Judy. She's a busy little thing. She's got something to say about everything and everybody. So I'm going to give you an example. I found myself for many years, and I have lovely neighbors. I adore my neighbors, right? And I would find that after a gathering, I'd be walking back and I'd find myself going, "Wow, do you think she gained weight? Do you think it's like, what?" I just had this amazing time, but trying to corral that without having a name, I'd get hijacked. I'd get hijacked by these, just like this is the truth. That's the thing about saboteurs. It's the truth. Got to judge people because, who won't? If you don't do it, who will? It's just like that constant. But
Right.
once I have a name now, and I'm not saying it's perfect, but now that I have JJ, I can just say, chill, just chill it. And you know what? Chills. Because the thing about saboteurs is they're tricky. And the way I was, and it was, anyway, the way I was taught was that in World War II, you remember how there were spies, like really good spies, like the ones that would infiltrate the communities, and maybe they become the president of the PTA, and they were your great neighbor that you'd always go over and barbecue and have beers with. Those were the worst and most effective spies, and there were a lot of them. And in many ways, our saboteurs are like that they just come in and it's like, it's the truth. Well, no, it's not. Whether my whether my neighbor gained 5 pounds or not, who cares? You know, zip it. It's just
Only if you were that neighbor's genes. They might
perhaps so,
matter.
but that again is a whole different topic and a different radio show.
And it has nothing to do with you anyway. So,
Yeah.
but why is it that because what you just said, sometimes we tear people down and say, "Oh, she's gained weight and I haven't, so I must be better than she." Do we do that to bring ourselves up sometimes at the expense of others?
Honestly, I think it's the thing about saboteurs is that they've kind of outlasted their welcome. It's that cast that's still on your leg. It's that little tiny cast that's still on your leg. I'm not talking about going around and being Mother Teresa. That's just not realistic. But for me, the beauty of and the magic, and I use that, figuratively, but really the magic of that is when I can stop it before I go down the rabbit hole, the rabbit hole. And then I'm feeling crappy the whole night because I was talking about someone, but you shouldn't talk about someone. But you know what? She did gain 5 pounds. Yeah. And another thing, it's just like, and this is while I'm watching TV, it's crazy. And so one of the reasons why the women that I work with, the number one thing that they say that they get out of this is peace of mind.
Do any of the voices that are in your head that do that, have any of them called mother?
I mean, I think that's fed into it. I think, because mother got it from mother, got it from mother, got it from mother, I mean, so sometimes it's from the mothers. I had a woman I used to work with who was Mormon, and it came from the elder. It wasn't her mom. Her mom wasn't. So it came from an elder. So when she started describing that voice, and gave it a name and gave it a face. And I'm going to show you this because it's so funny. These are my saboteurs. These are, and I'm sorry the radio folks can't hear it. I should actually just put it on the website because I have to tell you, it's outing this has been everything. So that's what I work with. And the thing is that it's so interesting. Oh my God, it is so interesting. I always tell my clients, you are the most interesting people. You are the most interesting person you've never met. Because it's like, once you start doing this work and you start naming it and you start listening, and I have, because of my voice dialogue work with my clients, how they do this is that they start writing and they start getting to know, they have conversations with their board members. And that's the negotiation, and that's how people start partnering. And so after a while, when there's a knowing of what you're working with, then I'm able to really focus on the sage part. But until I get to know kind of who's on board.
It's pretty now when you when you get a new client, they come to you and
Yeah.
you start talking about this, do
Mhm.
they look at you like the, deer in the headlight, look, and or do they have a clue?
Not a one. I've never met a person that didn't say, "Oh yeah, I got voices in my head." That is human. We all have voices in our head. It's not Sybil. It's not, sometimes I'll have to do that. And I've worked with women that are in their 30s, and I worked with a woman who was 78. There was not and I worked with, gosh, I've worked with 3 or 4 different gentlemen. No, but not one person has said, "Oh, I don't know what you're talking about," except one woman who had Asperger's. And she was on the spectrum. Seriously, she was on the spectrum. So she didn't know what I was talking about. In many ways, she was kind of lucky, but it was like, but other than that, I've never met anybody that went, "What are you talking about?"
So as you work them through this process that you put that you work through them or with them, what's the outcome? What happens to them after what changes happen after you've worked with them for a while?
Yeah, that's a great question. Um, okay, so I'll give you an example. One, because it's different for everybody, right? One woman came to me because she wanted to find out what her calling was, her calling in life. She was 58, 59. And what she realized as a result, the idea when she signed up is that I want to know my calling. We got 3 months to do this, go. So I was like, oh. So we started doing this work and we did some voice dialogue. And she started finding out that it wasn't about her calling. It was that she had a sergeant general in her head that said, you can only go this far and this is the line. She had no idea. Like she had all these rules. She had no idea that what she was running on was some, I can't remember if she'd been in the military. I think this was like maybe, I don't even know where it came from because it doesn't really matter after a while. But she had these rules that you can only go this far. And so she had to negotiate with that to come up with a new set of rules and to come up with a new set of what's possible because she was the president. So I hope I'm not mixing too many metaphors and I hope this isn't confusing, but the
No,
bottom.
it really makes perfect sense,
And
because we all
but it opened up. I mean, it opened up. What she told me at the end is she said for the first time at 50, I think she just turned 59, she said, I have possibilities. It's not about calling. It's about opportunities. It's about saying, wow, I don't have to be in this box. I get to step this, I get to step this way or that way. We'll find out where it lands. All of a sudden, calling wasn't as big of a deal. And I'm working with another woman right now who's she's kind of a big thing in her part of the country. She's lovely. And she keeps running into her own success. She gets this thing like nice girls only do this. Nice girls only get this far, don't make more money than your father. All this like and so what she's doing, she's just in the process now of starting to learn these voices because that's everything. If people walk away with one thing today, I hope that they walk away with the loudest voice wins. And I hope that next time they're feeling like, "Urgh," to write down what that message is in your head and start playing with that because the loudest one is always the strongest one. So, what that opens up for my client is because she's now able to do that, she's now starting to feel some freedom to be able to create her own sage, like to create her own badass businesswoman, to create her own, she's got ways now, she's got an access to a part of herself that she's known is there, but she couldn't access it like most of us because we're too busy, it's too loud in our heads, who's got time?
now when somebody, recognizes that this voice is unhealthy for them, and they are able to quiet down those voices, do the other voices, on the positive voices on the other side, automatically raise their volume?
I don't know so much. I think it's kind of like if you think of it this way, you think about how you have, if you're in a park, like if you go down to Discovery Park, we know this, you and I know Discovery Park in Seattle. There's a walkway, there's a pavement, there's a walkway that takes you to the beach. It's a well-worn path. You walk it all the time. When we start accessing our sage, that stuff, it's like oh, what's it called? What's it called when you uh what's it called when you take a machete and you're what's that called, bushwhacking? I think it's bushwhacking. Yeah, so when you it's like bushwhacking, so you're just barely getting through there. The beach is there, so it takes a little bit of time, and you have to, you've got one really well-worn path in your brain. It's like we're creating, it's a neural pathway. There's all sorts of science, but I think of it that way because, when I was a kid, my dad used to bushwhack, and he'd be like, the mountain's over there, and pew, 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 and then we would go and get our campsite, and we'd go back a few times, and all of a sudden the path was easier. So it's really about being committed to and being curious. Oh my God, it's so interesting. Being curious to like what's there. I was fascinated when I started meeting my saboteurs because it's like I had to pretend I was the president. I'm literally writing. I have a guide. I work with my clients, and I'm writing like, okay, you're upset about this. What's going on? And for some time, I started getting some really interesting information. It wasn't bad. And that was what was so fascinating to me. None of these voices were out to get me. None of them wanted. They just wanted to be heard. That's just a part of our psyche. There's all sorts of reasons for parts of us that were shut down. There's all sorts of reasons for it. They wanted to be heard. And that was the bottom line. And then once they're heard, and once I've heard them, I'm like, okay, I got this.
Do some of them want to either the louder ones, do they wanna protect you?
They all want to protect us. They just overstayed their welcome. It's the whole idea of that, and we need to keep our saboteurs. I would never say get rid of your saboteurs. We need our saboteurs. That is primal. It keeps us safe. I would never want to say get rid of the saboteurs. No, but have them be the co-pilot instead of the driver. That's kind of that's really what the goal is. And any situation that comes up, like when I work with CEOs and whatnot, the first thing they say is, hey, unless I have that judge, unless I'm pushing myself, I'll be a lazy bum. I'll never get anything done. And really,
They believe they believe that?
many people do. Many type A, many overachievers, absolutely. I believe that. I can't get stuff done unless I get going. I'm lazy, and this voice is going, you go. And I get stuff done, but I'm not very happy. And
S Oh,
yeah.
go ahead.
No, it's just that's kind of the what do you call it? God, I'm having a time. The carrot, that's kind of what pulls people along to find out about their sage because you get stuff done in a whole different manner.
I was having a discussion with my sister. Now she is a type A personality,
Mhm.
and she's wants to get stuff done, and it's gotta be done now, and da 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 da, and my attitude is, it'll take care of itself. It'll happen. It'll work. It's gonna be fine. I just leave it out there, and magically, it's taken care of.
Right.
Um,
So you have a different type of saboteur. That's just a different, that's her loudest one. I'm guessing you probably have, yours isn't a hyperachiever, whatever it is. Doesn't There's no judgment about it. It just means that she's got, if you look at the when you do an assessment, you see there's like 9 standard types of saboteurs, and they've been studying this stuff forever. But there's 9 standards, and some of them are really strong, and some of them aren't. You know?
that's interesting. I should really, take this test with with you
Yeah,
because it really is it's interesting that, I we yeah, it would be interesting. It would be yeah, and I'm sure it would be eye-opening for me.
it is. And what I always say when people first get it, they go, "Oh my God, this is terrible." It's like, no, it's not. Don't judge the judger. It kind of defeats the whole purpose, right?
Don't be
But look at it.
judgy.
Yeah, right. But if you can name it, it's and again, I'm always reticent to say some of this stuff because it sounds like it's fairy dust. But here's what my mission is. Things are batshit crazy right now, right? I mean, there's just no two ways about it.
I
Things are
don't know what
nuts
you're
right
talking about.
now. And for women in particular, at this time, and men, but I'm just speaking to women. My vision and goal and passion is to help them quiet down the internal critical so that they can have their resources so they can get out in the world and get stuff done. Because we don't need to be having everything in the culture yelling all this negativity. If we are doing that internally, it's miserable. It's brutal. And so that's kind of what gets me up in the morning. It's like if I can help the people that I work with just have a little peace of mind that they can make decisions and they can be curious and they can innovate and they can get out there and protest and do whatever it is without all the judgment. Oh my God. Whew.
I you know, I don't know what I would if I were a woman, I don't know how I would feel about, this country and where we're at and,
Mhm.
taking
Mhm.
rights away
Oh,
and
it's
doing
horrific.
all of the things that are happening. It's and it makes it would make I would think it would make someone feel less than because you don't feel like
Powerless, less than, I mean, it can go on and on. Depends depends where you live. I mean, all that's it doesn't matter really. Yeah,
but you know what I found, encouraging, as a matter of fact, I'm writing a blog about it now, is that, are you did you hear about the vote in, Kansas?
oh yeah. Yes. Watched it quite intensely, yes.
That the for those of you that aren't paying attention,
Pay
um,
attention.
Kansas is a bright red, did I say red state?
It is probably one of the reddest states, at least in the top 2 or 3 in the country.
Exactly,
Yeah,
and so the people in power, and because of it's a red state, the people that are in power are Republican by nature, and so they control the House, they control the Senate, and they control the governor's mansion, and they decided that they were going to in the
Constitution.
Kansas Constitution, there's a clause that says that women have a right to equal and fair treatment, which includes up to and including abortion services. And so they decided they'd throw it into the preliminary election so
Yeah,
they could sneak it through because not very many people vote in that. And so, the, but lo and behold, it
landslide.
was like magic. They normally get like a 25 to 30% turnout. They got over a 50% turnout. People were waiting in line because they wanted to they wanted to vote that down because they didn't feel, and there were men involved as well as women, they didn't feel like we want to be in a culture where a segment of our population is less than another segment of our
That's
population.
right. Regardless of whether they believe in abortion or not. That matter of fact, when they polled, there are a lot of people that are not believers in abortion, but they are believers in this is going to start something. Like states, let's start putting chips in women's necks. I mean, and that's an exaggeration, but is it? It's like so. It's to me, Kansas was everything for me. It was the beginning of realizing that um, and I'm just going to say the work that I'm doing is more important now than ever because for people
Absolutely.
to get out there and to really, men, women, all of us to get out there and have a voice, it is so hard to be present and connected and to speak your truth when you're doubting yourself, you're worried about what people are thinking, you're with all that stuff. It's like, no, let's just, put it on the shelf for this period of time and do what you need to do. So I'm not saying this is the be all, that this is the only path, but I just hope that people take a path because we're going to need it. We're going to need it.
Well, and it's important that everybody is, when we talk about equal rights, we still haven't passed the Equal Rights Amendment, by the way,
Mm,
which is amazing to me. But when we talk about equal rights, that's everybody because we are all one,
that's right.
and we all have a different role to play,
Mm,
but it's important that we work together. And when we create divisive opportunities for people to be divisive,
mm,
and then it only causes us to be farther apart. And
yeah.
today we need to be closer together than ever.
And it starts internally. It's just we got to start internally because the battle inside most of us is exhausting. It's exhausting, and that's male, female. I mean, it's just there's so much stuff going on that most of us just don't have the time. I mean, I can't sit on a mountaintop and meditate for 45 minutes. I'm lucky if I get 2 minutes in. I mean, honestly, it's just like some days are like that. But the
Yep.
practice that I'm trying to, the practice that I've developed and the practice that I'm working with my clients is just when you're feeling crappy and you feel like you're getting hijacked, stop. Just stop. And there's a whole process. There's brain hacks. There's all sorts of stuff. But stop and notice. Just stop and notice. Stop and notice. So, I just don't want it to sound trite because it's so amazing. And again, this is just one pathway. But I really, we got some battles coming up. We have all of us need to be on board. I mean, we all need to be on board. However, whatever that looks like, we need to be on board.
Exactly. And in fact, I'm coupling up with a couple of gentlemen that are musicians. That there's a production company that has a couple of albums out that are given to charity, and the charity that they use is one that fights global warming
That's good.
and or global change, because I am really tired of hearing people say to me or say on the news or whatever, I've lived here for 60 years and I've never seen anything like this. I
I haven't heard anybody say that lately. Have you here?
I've heard people say that all the time.
Mm,
Here, well, last week it was 95. Do you have air conditioning, by the way?
I do.
Aha. See, you're one of the few, the proud, the brave, the ones with air conditioning.
Yeah, well, it was accidental, but that's another story. But to your point, I mean, there's so much stuff going on, right? That's why I'm a big believer in a little bit of play because it's so easy to get so worn down. I used to work in news and it was like, it was news and it was everything. And so part of my process is make it fun, make it playful.
What haven't you done, by
God,
the
I don't
way?
know, Kevin. I don't know, for God's sake. Yeah, I was in news for the first I got out of college. I worked for Como News, and then I worked for ABC News for about 4 years, 5, 6, 7 years. That was my first career.
That would have been an interesting time
It
to
was a
be.
very interesting time, but it was a simpler time. I mean, news, it was like you go out to a shoot, and I was a camera person, right? So, or not a camera, I was a sound person. So I had the mics and the big fuzzy and all that stuff, and I was with the cameraman. Back then in Seattle, people would make room for you. They're like, "Oh, Sandy, hi, this is the CBS affiliate and the ABC affiliate," and they're like, "Hey, here's a good shot over here." Fast forward to ABC News, and it's like I got an elbow onto my nose. It was like, you guys, not very nice. I got mine though. So,
Well, and it's sad because for those of you that are not as seasoned as Sandy and I
mm,
see, I remember the CBS Evening News with Walter Cronkite,
I loved Walter Cronkite.
and in those days the news was the news. It
Mhm.
wasn't colored by commentary. It wasn't colored by your political point of view. It was, this is the fact. This is
Yeah.
what happened, and this and so forth. And now it's all changed. Have you been have you been watching Alex Jones trial at all?
No. I have my limit, and that's one of my limits. Yeah, I'm serious. It's like I can only consume so much. So here's I don't mean to interrupt you, but I got to tell you, it has been working really well. I watch my news, I listen, but at nighttime, I'll just go up to YouTube and just get like 3 minutes of MSNBC or 3 minutes of PBS, and then it's like I got my news. I'm good
I can't
because I
I
can't go
can't
to bed with that.
I can't watch a whole newscast
Oh
anymore.
yeah, yeah,
And but I never have watched that particular channel. I'm not going to publicize it as
yeah,
what it is, but what a slimy little snake.
yeah.
That is somebody that is willing to try and make money based upon the fact that he can lie, and there's a segment of the population that will believe him. It's just crazy to me.
Yeah, but it's
And
always kind of been, there's always
yeah, it
been,
is. There's always fringe characters, but
yeah. So
it's it's
I'm like, you know what? Stop the madness, man. It's like, get your tribe, get your people, get your tribe, you know, however you do it, and do something, just do something. And I'm not advocating any specific thing, but there's something about like this conversation right here. I get a gold star in my book. I get a gold star because this is really important. I hope I did something kind for somebody today. I hope somebody heard something that when they thought, I could do something different. Magic. You get the opportunity to do it all the time, right? With your shows. It's
Yes.
just like one little bit. So if we can all just do our one little bit, right? That's it for the deep thought. Done.
No. Well, it is important because there's somebody now or in the future that is going to listen to this show, listen to you and I talking about what you're talking about and changing that little voice or that big voice
Mhm.
and making that change. And you're going to help somebody and you will never meet them.
Oh, I love that. I love that. That is such
It,
good juju.
it
I
is
love
such a
that.
priceless commodity.
It
Um,
really is. It
and
is, and I was
I,
gonna say, if anybody wants to get that before I forget, if anybody wants to get that free assessment, it's positiveintelligence.com and look for saboteurs. And it's an assessment. It takes about 10 minutes to do, and you get a report. And it reports what your strongest saboteurs are. And the thing that's really interesting about it, I was like, poo, poo, poo. And then I started looking, I went, oh, wow, that's interesting. Oh, wow, isn't that interesting? So it gets the ball rolling. If this struck anybody's fancy, that's a great way to get the ball rolling.
Now, I know you've been doing this for 2 or 3 years now, but have
Right.
you noticed, are you beginning to notice a change in people, a change in
Absolutely.
their desires, and
Absolutely.
isn't it encouraging?
It is. It's also because I work with a lot of entrepreneurs. It's a little unnerving too, because a lot of people during COVID, because I was a business coach, right? And I still have that. And so, but a lot of people during COVID quit their jobs and they decided they were going to start a business and they aren't prepared. They just aren't prepared. They didn't, they don't know their messaging. They don't, market's changing. It's going to be really important if you have a business to study up, if you want that business to keep going. So I know that's not the direction you were going in, but if there's anybody out there that's an entrepreneur that's just like, hey, let's build a barn, let's do this, that enthusiasm lasts for a little while. And then either, SCORE, SBA, there's a whole bunch of different organizations that can help you create a foundation for that business because it's hard out there. It's still Zoom, it's still networking. So I'm meeting amazing healers. I tend to work with a lot of healers. I'm meeting amazing healers that don't know they don't have any idea how to run a business. They don't know how to talk about their business. And it's just heartbreaking. That makes me sad.
I am so fortunate because I have the gal I work with, her name is Holly. I don't know if you've met her, but she's on
I
the
think I met her one time, yeah.
yes, and she is a sweetheart because she has to deal with me because I'm the one that says the Shirley Temple Mickey Rooney movie,
Right,
you
right,
know,
right.
I got light,
Relation
I
ourselves,
got a barn,
Kevin.
let's put on a show.
Come on, let's build a barn. And for you youngins, don't worry about it. It was a great, great movie back in the day.
Exactly, but so she's talking to me about, I got to have a business plan, you got to have a marketing plan, you got to be able to do get all of these things down so that she's actually more concerned about post Kevin Positive Talk Radio than she is worried about anything else because and the feeling is and help me with this because I want to have something to combat her with this because if she says, look, you've done 700 shows. You have 1,500 shows in the can at your home from the last 20 years. But if you go away, it all ends. Give me something to combat that with her so that I can say, no, we're going to
Wait,
continue.
wait a minute, but isn't that kind of true? If you don't have something in place, isn't it? I
Shh,
mean,
shh.
I'm like, wait, is this a trick question? Is this a double negative? Wait a minute. If you have, it's kind of like if I don't have a will, right, and I have all this stuff, and I don't say anything, the state will take it because that's just by default. Is that what she's kind of saying?
Well, no, what she's saying is, well, yeah, basically she's saying
She's
that if
right, Kevin. She's right.
I hate it when you guys are right.
Oh, that that was no, 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 no. So what's the resistance to doing that? And what is it she wants you to do?
Well, we're working on a business plan.
Yeah,
And a marketing plan to put this all. See, I love doing these. I
yeah.
love talking to people like you, and I do 8 to 10 a week. and I've got in positive talk now that I just started, 10 months ago. I've got 220 episodes up
Wow.
in the can, and I'm doing KKNW, and see, that's what I want to do. But she's saying, well, but you, and she's right. If you're building a business and you're going to work to make the business profitable, you're going to have to do all of these things, like the business plan, like the marketing plan, and also the generate a system by which we can incorporate all of the work that I've done over the years to be able to create even more. Even if, as an example, I decide to go on a vacation for a month or something like that, then it can continue, rather than if I don't participate every day. So that's one of my little voices in my go ahead.
I was gonna say, that would be that is a very common voice that I hear with entrepreneurs. Usually I hear, "I love what I do, I don't wanna sell, I just want the clients to come to me." It's like, "Well," and that particular voice, it's a avoider, it can be a nitpicker, it can be a judger, that's why I love these assessments. It's something to play with, but that voice, honestly, is the one I think that kills businesses the most. It is, and I'm not saying this is you, but kinda. I'm just saying that I'm saying that this is that voice, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, but that whatever that voice is, like if we were in a session right now, I'd say, "How loud is that voice? Does it whine? Does it tell you things like take a nap? You're too." See, I have an avoider, so it goes, "Oh, baby, you're so tired, and it's so, you're so tired." It sounds so sweet, right? "You go take a nap. You don't work today. You deserve a break." And that is one of my sneakiest saboteurs because it sounds really sweet. But with business owners, what I've noticed with no matter where they are in the stage, I don't like doing that. I don't want to do it. And yet, sometimes that is the most interesting part about your business. I mean, there's so much cool stuff that comes out of like digging into a business plan and finding that out. You find out all this stuff about yourself and you surprise yourself and you come up with new ideas to do things. So that, my friend, is what a sage sounds like.
Exactly. And it's easy for me to ignore that conversation because because you just said it. It's like, well, I'm going to do these podcasts and then I'm going to go take a nap. And then I'm going to get up and it's time to watch the news, and then it's, but,
And then you
but
got that little tiny part that niggles at us, right? That goes, I know I should probably do something, but I hate that. That honestly is the sneaky saboteur because it sounds like it's taking care of you and it's like wants you to take a little nappy, wants all those things for you and wants you deserve to have somebody come and do all this stuff. Why do you have to do this? You've worked, and I'm saying you universally. But
yes.
those, joking aside, that's what I see the most in business, that very voice that you just talked about. And it comes sometimes from people that are like overachievers. Sometimes it comes from people that are avoiders. Sometimes it comes from people that are pleasers. That's why I love the assessment. But when I'm working with my client, I'm like, what's that voice? Because that's the voice you got something to offer the world. I'm like, Kevin, go do your business plan, man. Jump into it. That is interesting, interesting stuff. You'll probably innovate ideas you didn't even know anything about. I'm serious, you
Well,
know?
you know what's interesting about that is we've come up with some. Let me run this one by you, since you're a
Yeah,
business
okay, here
coach.
we go. Okay, let's hear it.
I was talking with Holly and her significant other, and we were talking about, what if. Think about this for a second. What if we were to go to a business like in a mall that had a display windows,
Right.
and we were to put the show on in the mall, in the display window, live, with speakers going to the outside, so that like we could be in the mall and you could be on the monitor from wherever you
Great.
are,
Oh
and
my
we could,
god.
I think that, and see, I would love to do that. That
Okay, so where did that idea come out of? Did that come out of just like, "Oh, I'm brushing my teeth," or did that come out of the fact that you were talking about a business plan with Holly?
I came out of part of Holly's structuring of, if we put this plan together and we can do
Absolutely.
this, and then that becomes a highly sellable commodity,
Kevin, absolutely. So
because there.
here's my challenge for you since you begged me for this. I know, stop begging, stop
I'll
begging.
stop begging. I
So
don't know.
when you hear that little voice that says, "Oh, I hate doing this stuff. I hate doing business plans. I hate asking for money," or whatever the jam is, note it. Give it a name. Start thinking about what that voice looks like, because that's the voice that gets in the way. Because you've got some great ideas. You have all this street cred. You have a great mission and a vision. You get excellent speakers, clearly, yes. But I'm saying is that
I
but I'm
do.
saying I know you do, but I'm saying that that's why the power don't let the little bully win. Don't let him win.
And
You
you know
got
what the fun part is,
what?
Sandy? Is
What?
that people like you wanna come back.
Yes, I love you. I love talking to you. I love every time I talk to you, something new's going on. I think it's fascinating. I do. I do. I think it is so. Here's my last parting words. This is what I want to say to anybody out there, that you are the most interesting person you've never met. You are the most interesting person you've never met. Take 5 minutes. You will find out. I've had experiences where I've gone, oh my God, my husband just went, what? I walked up to my husband. I said, honey, I am so interesting. And he was like, okay. I said, no, I mean, I'm seriously fascinating. Do I have time for one more? Do
Of
I
course.
Okay. So this is the analogy I always use with people if they're going to step into this. It's like you've lived in the same house forever, right? You lived in your parents grew up, parents raised you, you bought the house, you've lived in this house. And one day you're walking down the hall and you see a stairway, this tiny little stairway. And you're like, whoa, I've never noticed that stairway before. And you walk up the stairway and then you walk right in. There's a room. It's like, and you walk to the window and you look out and there's a tiny little courtyard and you've never seen that courtyard before. And it's been there the whole time. And that's just out of one window. That's why I love doing this work. It's like helping people find those little courtyards. It's fascinating. So
That
that
that that surely would be. And so getting back to that idea, because nobody's doing that. Nobody
doing what?
remember the I was doing the live radio
Oh,
show
you're
in
back on the radio. Okay, I'll stop talking. Got it.
well, and the reason that excites me is that nobody does that anymore. Remember, they used to do that kind of
Yeah.
thing,
Yeah.
but
Do it.
nobody does that kind of thing anymore. And I think it would be fascinating. It would be awesome and stuff like that. But I have to have a business plan, and then I have to
You
put
get to have a business plan, Kevin. Yay. You get to,
Yay!
you know what happens? People will want to give you money, and when they want to give you money, they want to see your business plan, and you'll have a big juicy business plan. Those things are cool. Business plans are awesome. They really are. I used to get hired to do them. I'm not doing them anymore, but they're very interesting. You find out all this cool, juicy stuff, and it's I'm so glad you're going to do that.
Well, and in fact, Holly just graduated from business school,
Great.
and she did a business plan that sailed through on her first draft, which she tells me is pretty unheard of.
Wow.
So
I
so
gotta
it's,
meet this Holly gal. I'm looking forward to that.
she's a very bright gal,
I
and
guess so. She's definitely on Team Kevin. That's awesome. That's
she
awesome.
is, and we love working together. She loves my mission. She loves the passion that I bring to it, and
Yeah.
I love your passion, what you bring to what you do.
Oh, thank
It's
you. And I really
it's
appreciate the time the opportunity to talk with you as always.
I could talk for hours to you.
I know we could start getting into politics and climate change and all sorts of fun. No, I'm really
Not
glad.
today. Not today.
Yeah, today.
We've had a really good talk, and will you come back? I like to
Of
say this
course,
and get it on tape,
of
uh,
course, of course,
so
of
that you
course.
can't back out.
Oh, absolutely. I might bring somebody with me. Who knows?
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
That
I
that
got a
would that
couple
would be
ideas for you.
that'd
Singer,
be
somebody who could sing in the window of the mall.
exactly exactly. I mean, that to me, that is I can see it in my brain. I can see
Yeah.
having a bunch of people standing around watching the show being produced and done, and having a man on the street with a microphone that's out there talking to people about various questions and asking questions.
I think it's a great idea. Why not?
I don't know why not. I'm
There
gonna
you go. There you go.
It would be so much fun for me to do, because I'm a bit of a ham anyway. I don't know if you noticed.
No
But
comment.
but I would have a great time doing it. But before we go, and we do have to go, but before we go, I'm going to set myself aside, and I want you to ask or tell the audience anything that you would like them to know, the ones that are listening now or in the future.
Anything I'd like them to know?
Anything that from your heart, anything that you would like them to know.
Okay. What I'd like them to know is that they are worth 5 minutes a day. They're worth 5 minutes a day, taking 5 minutes a day, writing. If you want a guide to do that, to help you start exploring and finding out more about yourself, it is so interesting, but you're worth the time. And it'll rock your world. That's what I want to say.
We're talking with Sandy Stamato, and thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Kevin.
By the way, I'm also working on something called Authentic Grit, and that will be something that I'm a whole big deal that I'm working on as well.
Never a dull moment.
Never a dull moment. I can't. I'm not allowed to. But Sandy, thank you so much for being here. It's such a pleasure. Go to
limbdweller.com. limbdweller.com. Contact me and I'll send you the link for the assessment, the complimentary assessment.
Awesome. Thank you. Please wait right there. I'll be right back. Hey, thanks for enjoying this episode all the way to the end. Please give us a like and subscribe to this channel. This has been a production of positivetalkradio.net. Please visit our website, oddly named positivetalkradio.net, for more details about us and our mission, which is to provide great positive programming designed to inspire us all. I'm Kevin McDonald, and I'm proud of these shows, and I truly hope that you'll like them and share them with friends and family. So on behalf of our entire team, remember, be kind to one another, because each other's all we got.